On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk CES wrap-up as well as bathroom technology. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is ResiWeek, episode 362. It's not the standard, but how you use it. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Giles Sutton. He is the SVP of Member Success and Sales over at CEDIA. How you doing, Giles?
I'm doing really well. Thanks, Matt. Great to be back after the holidays, refreshed, and after spending last 3 days with 100,000 of my closest friends at CES.
Very nice. Very nice. Then we have Mr. Jason Knott. He is the Chief Content Officer over at CE Pro. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well, and Giles has 100,000 friends, and I've got like 5 at CES. So
I don't know which one's better. I'm leaning towards yours, Jason. All right. As both of them alluded to, I know you're going to be shocked. We're going to talk a little bit about CES. This comes to us from Residential Systems. Trends to Watch has kicked off the week that passed for CES 2023. This is from Tony Savoyna. He covers essentially 6 trends that he was expecting to see at CES, and I want to see what Giles and Jason have to say about that. But before we jump into those 6 topics specifically, Giles, give us an overview of what you saw, what stood out to you, and what you think the future kind of focus was of this year's CES.
That's a great question. I found it a really interesting show from as it applies to our industry, I must say. You know, there's just so much product that is being developed in you know, the smart home space and all these areas that are identified in this article as well. But what's interesting is just, you know, as we see kind of expansion into health tech and some of these other areas, for me, it just, when I look at it all, it really, when I think of it, what an integrator does, the shifting value proposition, I think, is that I think more now than ever, consumers need integrators to help them with just the amount of technology that's available. And I feel like the conversation may start to shift away from, you know, simplicity of design or design-centric products to more products that are kind of safe, that have sort of that are private as well. Because I don't know, I'm interested to hear what Jason's thoughts are. But when you look at some of the products that are there that can diagnose mental health, you know, there was a product there that can diagnose, you know, ADHD. You have smart toilets that conduct urinalysis. You know, all of these things that start to report things, you know, out to a cloud. I just, you know, I think now more than ever, privacy is at the forefront of consumer technology. And I think, you know, this is really a moment for integrators where, you know, a lot of the products that are already being installed are on private networks and don't report off to the cloud. You know, we've been used to using those products for a long time. Now more than ever, I think that is the conversation I think integrators should be having with homeowners. So it's not, you know, that's very high level, Matt, you know, but that's, you know, it's funny coming away from it. I'm having those sort of philosophical kind of thoughts when I'm looking at CES. There's obviously tons of technology. There's robots, there's AI, there's lots of sustainable technology there as well, wellness technology, some amazing innovations in aging in place technology. But that is what I sort of feel as a high level when I see all of these products, so many products. It's just, where is all that information going,
Yeah, that's a really good point. Jason, kind of same question to you. What did you see? What stood out to you? What is they kind of typically say that what we see at CES is what we're going to see in 3 years, right? It's got that product cycle, that life cycle. What was the trend that you saw at the show that stuck out to you as the one we're going to talk about in the future?
Well, I'll almost mirror what Giles said, in that it's really almost a microcosm of what's going on in technology. If you look at how integrators are diversifying, think of, the 60 some odd categories of equipment that we track in CE Pro. And then what Giles was just saying, AI, robotics. If you walked into the LG or Samsung booths, it was about smart home. They had their TV manufacturers, but it was about smart home. Sony did not have any TVs or projectors in their booth. They had that satellite system, and gaming. So if you were an integrator, you were going to be disappointed by the Sony booth, quite frankly. But it just showed you how these companies are all diversifying. And I'll put it two ways. One is, I don't know if some of it is just they're looking for a level of pizzazz. It's like some companies that I think that have no business trying to diversify, and then they have a robot in their booth, whereas they're really a security company, for example. They're trying to showcase the technology that is probably never going to see the light of day, but it certainly gets eyeballs and draws, helps the stock price and all that sort of stuff. And then you look at companies like LG and Samsung with smart things and smart home, and these are companies that are truly trying to diversify what they are known for. So I kind of look at it as what integrators are having to do. Integrators are becoming these wellness people, and think of all the different categories that we're covering, and that's what you're seeing now inside individual booths at that show.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Giles, let me come back kind of to one of the points that the article made, and one of the things that I saw quite prevalent in the coverage of CES was the transportation and the mobility side. Jason mentioned the Sony car collaboration with Honda. Ram brought out their new electric truck that is available in 3 years or something, down, like well behind the competitors. I'm pretty close to Detroit. We're used to the Detroit Auto Show. Over the years and growing up, that was always the preeminent auto show. CES has, for all intents and purposes, kind of taken that storm. All of the big or the biggest auto news seems to come out of CES. Do we have any role in that realm? Connected cars, using cars as battery backup for your house, smart charging. There's a lot of things that are kind of integrator adjacent, but it's a huge, potentially massive market as most of North America is going to move away from traditional vehicles into electric vehicles. Is there a place for us in that world?
I think there absolutely is. I think, as Jason said, I think it's kind of an adjacency. It's almost like a response to this trend is where an integrator can step in. I had an interesting Uber journey back from LAX when I was talking about electronic, cars with the Uber driver, and he said, "Well, we get power outages all the time here in California. Can you imagine?" He said, "when everyone is going to have an electric vehicle, and at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. when people get home from work every night, people are going to start charging their cars, what that's going to do to the infrastructure." And I thought it's really interesting that an Uber driver would hone in on that particular problem, but also a problem that CEDIA members can solve through energy management systems. And I think that's where we're going to be supportive of this trend. I mean, you're absolutely right. Automotive was huge at CES. It's becoming probably the top automotive show in the world now, and yet that hall was full of vehicles, and it had there were also some acoustic engineering companies that were in there as well. This is where I see that we sort of are supporting that trend. We know that all these vehicles are going to have built-in either Alexa or Google assistants, so they are going to a certain extent be an extension of the home. But where I see us being most supportive is around the power management side of things.
Yeah, we're already seeing it. Savant had the intelligent power management system that they had at CEDIA Expo. Schneider was there. I got to tour through the Schneider booth at the smart home area at CES, and they were touting EV charging stations and intelligent breaker boxes. Leviton has a similar system. Giles is spot on there that and we're seeing the trend in terms of percentage of integrators who are adopting electrical contracting licenses grow exponentially. And I was attributing that mostly to the lighting category, but I think that's going to guide integrators into this charging category. Now, we tried solar a while back, and that was kind of a dog-eat-dog business. Now, that doesn't mean that may not come back for integrators also become, power service providers like that. So I think that the transportation area is the car is going to be a extended room of the house. That's the way integrators need to be looking at the car. And in fact, we wrote a little article on CE Pro, this Ahira, I think that's the way you say it, a $180,000 SUV with a pop-up video screen, the length of the dashboard and surround sound in it, that it called it a home theater in the car. So already the car is trying to become a room of the home. So let's make the integrators see the car as a room of the home.
Yeah, I like that. Jason, what is your take on the amount of health technology that's there and how that plays in? Because you had everything from the gimmicky stuff, the knockoffs of the Dyson face mask thing that we covered a couple of weeks ago, to a lot more traditional health care things in terms of sensors and air pollutant monitors and all of those things within the health space. I know that there's a push in the industry to go after the wellness category, and there's a lot of talk about it. I have yet to meet more than a handful of integrators that are successfully going down that vein. Does CES and the products that are offered there and promoted there, does that offer a better opportunity for integrators to go check that out? You mentioned how, if you went to the Sony booth, you were disappointed. But when you're looking at other verticals, is this going to become the show that you really kind of need to go to see these other verticals?
Yeah, and I think a part of it comes down to, I know what CEDIA has done with the Propel program is making sure that these manufacturers know about our channel. So a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is DIY. And unfortunately, all it does is widen the gap between the DIY and professional installation. I love it that integrators will be there and they'll see the latest IAQ monitoring systems and sniffing air systems, that sort of stuff. It's a double-edged sword because it introduces integrators to the category, but we've got to make sure that those manufacturers know that this is the channel that they should be, or they could have a product. I'm not saying they can't have a DIY product or go direct to consumer, but they could have a professional install level product that could go to integrators that they could bring to their customers. You're right. The integrators that I've talked to are seeing wellness resonate only with their high-end customers, and they can't seem to get it past that high-end customer level. But I still think it's a viable category. I think I saw somebody go through the 9 different categories of wellness, and integrators are doing 7 of the 9. An audio system is a health benefit. A lighting system is a health benefit. Indoor air quality and central vacuum are health benefits. So there's a lot of things that integrators are doing already. They just don't perceive themselves as wellness. But again, we've got to get these manufacturers to recognize the CEDIA channel as a viable channel for these products.
I completely agree, Jason. And actually, it was interesting. I was on a Parks Associate panel. They run their Connections conference at CES, and a lot of that discussion was around exactly that. There's a lot of emphasis on product feature set, product design and development. Not enough thought around the go-to-market strategy for a lot of these manufacturers. They think that you just put a product out there and people will come and buy it, whereas actually not thinking about how these are going to be installed. The other thing I think is that there's far too much emphasis on what Matter is going to do. I think Matter is definitely very important, don't get me wrong, but there is a little bit like everyone's thinking that Matter is going to be the solution to this. And we all know it is just, quote unquote, a standard. We've worked with plenty of standards as integrators since serial connectors. We know what a standard is. It's not that is the problem. It is the configuration and customization to the customer's needs that is the specialism that an integrator can bring. And unless you're starting to bring in, AI technology that starts to kind of monitor homeowners' behaviors so that these systems sort of auto-configure, which I don't think we're quite there yet, Matter is not going to solve that problem. So I completely agree with you, Jason. There's not enough thought around the go-to-market strategy and the fact that there's an entire workforce here that is, as long as the product is reliable, it integrates with everything. There's an API to products that integrators work with regularly. They will ensure that those products are installed correctly and reliably, and it has more chance of success than just putting it on a e-commerce site.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not the standard; it's how you use it. Just before we leave this topic and go into our next, I want to come back to one thing you said right off the top, Giles. You were talking about the network security side of things, right? We're traditionally, as an industry, tried to do everything in a closed network as much as possible. Everything is now talking to the cloud. I continually push back on that a little bit, because I don't know if we want to touch that side at all. To me, I want to make sure that we're building secure networks, but I can't control what the manufacturers are going to do on their end. And we're seeing more and more attacks are not coming because somebody opened a port on a router. They're coming because somebody hacked into the manufacturer's cloud system. And that's the side that we have no control over and no liability, but nobody's going to go after the toilet manufacturer. We're not going to name the names, but a toilet manufacturer who's got a smart toilet, they're going to come after the people that were in the home connecting the Wi-Fi. How do we navigate that? Can we navigate that?
Well, we can navigate it by ensuring that the homeowner makes the right decisions with the technology they install. I think you're absolutely right. It is a concern because we don't know where all this data is going and how secure. It's funny. I actually watched, I don't know if you've seen the movie that's just come out called Megan, that is about an AI robot.
No, not yet.
It's an AI robot that basically goes rogue and starts murdering everyone. So it is but I didn't know whether this was actually
sounds accurate.
It's in the home. There's a voice assistant in the home as well that starts to become corrupted, and it's kind of like, it was kind of funny. This movie comes out at exactly the same time as like CES, where you're basically seeing kind of robots everywhere. Companions for kids, because it's kind of similar to that. But I think that there are more robust networking products that are being released, but really this is where there are some concerns when you look at these products where there isn't enough oversight. And I think integrators are skilled at navigating all of these products and ensuring that they are that they are secure, that they are in a closed network. But that's really kind of what I was saying earlier, is that I think we need to put more emphasis as an industry about our skills in that area, because I think people look at this and go, "Oh, I want that little cute little robot in my home," or the smart toilet or whatever. And actually, because it looks like it's fun and gadgety, but actually, that could be a gateway into the home very easily if it's hacked. And I think just integrators need to be telling that story, because we have a lot of experience and skills in that area that, as I say, we need to emphasize, I think, more.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, gentlemen, let's change topics for a second. Otherwise, this just becomes the CES show. Coming to us from CE Pro, 3 approaches to installing a smart sound system in the bathroom. Experts from Ferguson show 3 solutions to enable relaxing soundscapes in the bathroom. Read through the article. They cover 3 really good kind of budget points to get in the door to do essentially technology in the bathroom if you are not already doing it. Jason, let me start with you on this one. One of my biggest takeaways from not only this article, but any time that we as a company have gone into the bathroom from a work standpoint is we're doing one of 2 things. We're either plugging in, a Sonos and putting it kind of on the counter for the client, or we're putting in a fully function tied into the rest of the home, in-ceiling speakers, TVs behind the mirrors, the whole kit. We've recently seen some interest in some of the Kohler products, which are named in the article, but they're also the ones that we hear about, where clients are asking if we can use that aspect of the Kohler system that's in the rest of the Kohler shower system that they're putting in. How do you go about working with companies that are not traditionally in our space, like Kohler, who have exhibited, have shown interest, but at the end of the day, most integration companies are not getting a knock on their door from a Kohler rep saying, hey, we want to talk to you about this one little sliver of our business that really is an add-on to, the massive bathroom systems that we sell. How do you go about developing those relationships so you can figure out not only if it's viable, but how to best use it and integrate it into the rest of our platforms?
I think what you just described is going to change, in that I believe there's a reason that Kohler and Moen had massive booths in the smart home space at CES, and they were debuting, just as you were talking about the transportation, this becoming a car show, they were debuting this stuff at CES, not at KBIS and IBS a few weeks down the road. They were debuting it at CES. And you see companies like, if we take the analogy of what happened in the lighting space, the lighting companies realized that the electricians were not going to be their advocates for selling very expensive fixtures, so they turned to our channel. Logically, we're seeing it in companies like Braun Newtone in the airspace with their new product. I think it's called Air Access. I can't remember what it's called, but they're realizing the HVAC guys don't want to do a connected fan in the bathroom either, so they realize they've got to go to the custom integration channel. I think Kohler and Moen are going to recognize that the plumber is not the guy who's going to connect the toilet to the internet. In fact, they have no idea how to do that. So they're going to have, if they want to sell their $11,000 toilets, then they're going to have to target just our same conversation we were having before, the custom installation channel, because this channel is the most intelligent contractors who can go in there and do this connectivity for their products. So if they're going to make smart products, they've got to have a go-to-market strategy with the custom installation channel. So I was excited by the fact that they're there with these smart showers and smart irrigation systems, leak detection systems, all this water management element. The integrator, they are at some point going to be knocking on your doormat. They are at some point going to be saying, we can't get this through our traditional channels. Please, Mr. Integrator, will you help us deploy this?
Giles, kind of following up on that, how do we go after that market? Should we have a spot on our website or our Instagram of, hey, here's a Kohler toilet that we can integrate for you?
Well, this should be where I do a shameless plug for the Kohler CEDIA program, where basically, where CEDIA members do get, access to Kohler products at trade price, which is all those spa products, but also more importantly, leads from local, from Kohler showrooms. And I think that's the way to look at it. It's that this is a phenomenal way to reach the design professional. I mean, everyone knows who Kohler is. They're in all the big, major markets. They have phenomenal connections with design professionals. And it may not be, the core, system that our integrators install, but it's a phenomenal way, to get leads and create opportunities. And I think it's something that shows that you're more aligned with the design professional, and you're not just about, putting TVs on walls. And, we're working with Kohler over ways that we can provide actually training to the design professionals on how to work with integrators. So that's the way I would look at it. That opportunity is right there. I completely agree with Jason. They've already said that the plumbers are not the right people to install these very, very complex products. Our integrators are the right people to do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it up. Thank you both for joining us. Giles, if people want to connect with you, learn more about CEDIA, where can they do that?
Either on LinkedIn, Giles Sutton, or message me through CEDIA.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Mr. Knott, if people want to connect with you, learn more about CE Pro, where can they find that info?
Obviously, go and subscribe for free to both their print publication and our newsletters at cepro.com. And I'm on Twitter at Jason W. Knott.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.